Well, good afternoon. This is Benjamin Hadfield with Teach Me to Dive, technical dive instructor in Idaho, reaching out and bringing you the most interesting comments and information you can possibly do about diving and different things going on. And today we're really excited. We've got Nick from Warfighter Scuba in Honduras with us today. Nick runs a fantastic program that's dedicated to our nation's veterans that are Purple Heart recipients or farther. That he does an adaptive program. And if you're not familiar with adaptive program, we'll probably let Nick talk more about that. But that's where they've lost an arm or a leg or are paraplegic or quadriplegic in some cases. Certainly more rare cases, but they've been wounded in action somehow, and they've come back to us in damage. And so Nick's process in this is he helps put it back together through scuba. Now, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. We're Nick and I are both veterans, and we love our nation as well. Nick, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Benjamin. I appreciate it too.
Well, Nick, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and diving in the military?
Yeah. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2003. Deployed to Iraq in 2006. Got out of the Marine Corps in 2007. Went back to Iraq in 2008 as a private security contractor and did that on and off for the next 4 or 5 years. All said and done, I got about 3 years spent in Iraq, all over that place. Didn't do any diving while I was in. I got certified to dive back in 1998 when I was 12 years old. Went on I think it was a 6th grade field trip to Catalina Island. And we did some snorkeling and I saw scuba divers, and my dad was one of the, chaperones on the trip. And I said, Dad, I want to learn that. And, my dad made it happen. So I got certified at 12, but I didn't do any kind of diving in the military. I still kicked myself in the butt though, because I had all my scuba equipment in my wall locker in the barracks. And instead of diving in Hawaii where I was stationed, I was too busy getting drunk when we were in the field. So I had the opportunity. I just never did it. And I didn't really get back into it until I moved to Roatan in 2016. And that's when I really started getting back into diving, because there's really not much to do on this island other than drink your face off or scuba dive. So I did very well at drinking my face off. And found out that I'm a raging alcoholic. And in that, my PTSD and everything was pretty significant. But with getting back into scuba diving, it started allowing me to clear my head. And that's kind of what led to founding, Warfighter Scuba is for years, I haven't been able to clear my head, and getting back into scuba diving was able to bring me to the present moment where I wasn't thinking about all the stupid crap that was, normally occupying my head. And it was the first time I ever talked to some of my buddies and said, hey, I have an idea. And they didn't laugh me out of the room. So Warfighter Scuba was born, and I've been 6 years sober now. Feel great. I don't have any of my night tremors or, any kind of PTSD lingering, that I really consider PTSD. Obviously, stress and anxiety and things like that are still daily, but when we're diving, it's gone. It doesn't exist. And that's been one of the things that I could probably say 100% of our veterans who've come through the program will attest to. We do, like you said, Purple Heart recipients. And we've had amputees come, and, not to sound, what's the word? Not to sound bad, but I think the amputees get the most out of our program because they're, they get to experience weightlessness. You get double leg amputees above the knee, and they're able to move in any direction they want without a wheelchair, without prosthetics, without anything. And when you see that joy in their face that they can move without being restricted to some kind of device, there's not much that can top that in feel good moments. So we haven't had any quadriplegics or anything, or serious paralyzations yet. I had a below the waist paralyzed. He absolutely loved it. Being able to move around with his arms and breathing. I don't know. It's man, it's just so enjoyable. Like I love scuba diving, but when you get to take people out on the adaptive side, it's like it's so much better. I mean, it just I don't know. You see a joy that you can't really describe, and that's I don't know. It's just so nice.
That is amazing. And thank you for your service, and congratulations on 6 years of sobriety is a huge goal and a thing to accomplish. So congratulations on your hard work on that.
Thank you.
That is for sure. So, Nick, can you explain a little bit about the mission and the goals of Warfighter Scuba, especially in relationship with working with these veterans and Purple Hearts?
Yeah, I mean, so the mission obviously is we're trying to teach a positive skill set to help occupy the wounded veterans' time. The beauty of scuba diving is like 70, depending on which agency you look at, 71 to 78% of the planet's covered in water, right? So this is a skill and a tool that you can use literally worldwide. And it's one that, it's physical. So it does allow you to get physical activity. And like I said, for the seriously wounded veterans, it allows them a sense of freedom that they can't get anywhere else unless they went up to space. I mean, I guess that might be an option at some point in our future. We might see that, but for now we're kind of limited to what we can do here on Earth. And it's just our mission's to spread that. My personal goal. I've had way too many of my friends commit suicide. I tried to take my own life years ago and unsuccessfully, thank God. But to decrease the suicide epidemic in our veteran community is definitely one of our mission points. And then I'm a huge proponent in marriage and relationships. So we always invite our married veterans to bring their spouses. And that's been proving to be a very amazing part of our mission is when we have a husband and a wife come through the program together. They learn scuba diving together. They learn a skill set they can use anywhere together. And I can't tell you how many spouses have pulled me aside and thanked me because, most veteran organizations, it's usually just for the veteran. And spouses don't get to really experience what the veteran goes through. And with our program, they do. They're right next to the veteran throughout the entire process. And they get to hear the stories. They get to hear conversations that they've never heard their husband or wife, say in front of them before. And it's led to a lot of marriages, really gaining a lot more closeness and what's the word? Bringing them back together. There's no more of a barrier wall between. I don't really want to tell my wife what I went through. She won't understand. But when you get that veteran in a circle with other veterans who have the same, life experiences in combat, that just happens. Those conversations happen and they feel more comfortable. And then their wives get to participate and actually understand a hell of a lot more of what their spouse went through.
That's amazing. Helping marriages, helping the vets. That's what an amazing side benefit. I would not have expected to hear that as in today's conversation.
It's surprising. Every marriage has issues, right? My wife and I, I mean, we've been married twice. We divorced and remarried. So, I know what marital problems look like. And, a lot of it had to do with my drinking and my PTSD and my anger. And, it's one of my goals to try and help couples prevent that. It's more than just scuba diving. It's truly we're trying to make lifestyle changes in the positive direction for every veteran that comes through. And at that same time, build a network that those veterans can then reach out to and, go on dive trips together. And we've had multiple veterans do that. They meet different veterans while they're here. I was getting texted from a couple of veterans who met down here in Roatan who decided to go do their advanced in Massachusetts. And the whole time they were texting me, sending me pictures in their dry suits going, oh man, Roatan is so much different than this. It's freezing here. We can only see 3 feet. And, but everywhere you go, a dive is a dive, whether you have 100-foot visibility or, not even a foot of visibility, you can still experience this, the same like therapy under pressure. It's, I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. I know divers understand it, but when you try to describe like what we do for the veterans to people who have no knowledge or have never tried scuba diving, they just kind of look at you sideways because it's really hard to explain what goes on.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I'm literally speechless. I love that their divers decided that the next place they wanted to go to was Massachusetts. Massachusetts, Idaho, pretty much the same thing. We know what Rotan's about, and I know what Idaho's about. That's for sure. And it's not about clean 100-foot visibility or warm water. I'm teaching tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I've got a tech course. We're going out to 130 feet in the local lake where it'll be 40 degrees if we're lucky at depth. So it'll be a long dive.
I don't know how you do it, man. I'm spoiled. I've been teaching here for 6 years now. And when I did my trainer course, we were in Fort Lauderdale. And I don't know if you've ever been there or heard of
Fort Lauderdale a lot.
Tiger Tail Lake is where we did all of our water work. And needless to say, I was kind of the class joke because I'd never taught in anything like that. It's 100. A bad day here is like 60-foot viz.
Sure.
And that's like an amazing day in Florida or anywhere else in the United States. And Tiger Tail was about 3-foot viz. And, I'm having to sit there and do an entire evaluation, for, the instructor trainer program. I'm just like, I can't see anything. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm so out of my element. Am I even supposed to be here? And then was it last month or 2 months ago, a friend of mine asked me to fly up and teach one of his buddies in Texas. And I got to go dive in Canyon Lake and do an open water course there for him and his wife. Mm-hmm. And again, I was just like, wow, I'm so spoiled in Roatan.
Yes,
we hit a thermocline at I think we hit a thermocline at 30 feet ish, or a fresh spring feed or something. I was in a 3-mil suit and I was just immediately oh my God, I gotta go. We got to get away from here. I think it dropped to 60 degrees, which I'm sure you laugh at, but it's, I just finished a free diving course today. It is 87 degree water temp. So
nice.
It's like bath water here.
No, I get it completely. So Nick, as an instructor, can you walk us through the process of becoming an adaptive instructor?
So SSI has a program called Classified. They're one of the only agencies that actually has their own adaptive. I know you have Dive Heart, you have there's a handful of others. Yeah, HSA. But as far as the big agencies go, SSI has their own, and it's called Classified Diving. Mm-hmm. And you as a normal diver can go to a classified diving seminar, and you can learn to become a classified dive buddy, which is a really fun course. You get to actually put different masks on to feel what it's like to be a blind or a partially blind diver. You take your fins off and you don't use your legs, and you learn how to control people with different injuries or different capabilities. So that way you can be a dive buddy for a classified diver or an adaptive diver. There's different levels in classified depending on how severe the disabilities are. Since our inception, we actually haven't had to use classified for any of our veterans because they've been able to do all the open water standards. And that's one of the great things about SSI is, it's all in one for us. And SSI has been one of our biggest supporters since we were just an idea. I didn't even have the company incorporated or anything. When I talked to Guido, they were down here doing a photo shoot in 2016. And I told him I had an idea, and he said, we'll support you. And they've supported us from day one. I mean, they've been absolutely incredible. But But the thing with SSI is, if we can push an adaptive diver all the way through open water, they can do all the skills without assistance, then they can get a full open water cert. Whereas if, somebody might struggle and they can't, complete the mask without assistance, or they can't complete the, emergency swimming center or some kind of skill without assistance, then we can go into the classified program for them. And then depending on how, what skills they can do, depends on how many adaptive buddies you need to dive with you.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. So what kind of certifications are required to become an adaptive instructor? And how can someone get in that's interested in that become an adaptive instructor?
So an open water instructor can become a classified diving instructor. And I highly recommend taking the course, because even if you plan on using it once every so often, I mean, I love teaching open water, again, don't get me wrong, but like when you work in that, it changes you in a way that you don't understand. Like you're giving back, you're giving somebody something that they can't experience anywhere else. And again, to see that as an instructor teaching, somebody with disabilities, or, somebody with disabilities and their friends, to be able to dive with them, it's just incredible. I mean, it's life-changing. It's therapy. Like I don't think a lot of scuba divers in general understand what they really get every time they're diving. And if you start expanding that into helping people with the adaptive needs, it's just, man, I don't know. It's like heaven on earth. It really is. It's just so much fun to help. Like, I don't know. I'm grinning like an idiot just thinking about it. So.
Oh, that's great. And so as we kind of move through this, what kind of key characteristics, traits do you believe are essential to work with people that are adaptive or with veterans? And it seems like those might be same but different skill sets as well, to be honest with you.
Patience. I mean, patience for sure. And surprisingly, especially on the veteran side, you get a lot of different mentalities. Most veterans are type A, so you get a lot of, thick-headedness. And
with veterans? No, that never happened. Come on. Seriously. You're joking.
Sometimes it's like herding cats underwater, man. I swear. But, it's always in a fun and safe manner. But on the adaptive side, there's a sense of pride there that a lot of times people have a hard time asking for assistance, if that makes sense, especially with the veterans. The veterans want to do everything themselves, which is good. I'm not a proponent for not trying to do everything yourself, but you have to be patient sometimes, because everybody learns at different speeds. And when you start getting into that, you could have one person learning really quick and another one struggling a little bit. So you have to find the way to kind of meet in the middle, so you're not leaving people out.
Fair enough. So what kind of challenges do adaptive divers face as they go through this process? And how do you at Warfighter Scuba address those challenges so they can have a safe and fulfilling experience?
So, I mean, we typically have 1 to 2 certified assistants with all of our groups. Like my wife, she's actually doing her ITC right now. Her instructor exam is going to be when we get back from our fundraiser in November. But she's like our videographer. So she's on every dive. We typically have a dive master or assistant instructor with us as well. And we keep our ratios 4-to-1. We never go over that. I did 2 standards at 8-to-1 one time, and I will never do that again. I thought I was going to die. That was so much work. And trying to do 8 students by yourself, oh man, is it a workout? And that was regular. That was just regular open water. So we keep our classes and our trips very small. The intimacy is something that I think sets us apart. I always try to keep it like fire team elements. You can get much closer with a smaller group of people. You can learn more about each other, and you can keep those diving situations a heck of a lot more controlled and well within standards very easily, especially if you have 2 extra bodies to help. So that's typically how we do it. As far as what I would say the adaptive and regular divers face is basically a mental block. Everybody's got this fear of the ocean, um, fear of breathing underwater, fear of the unknown. And again, once you see them overcome that, it's a sense of joy you see in somebody that's just amazing to experience with them. But not only experience it with them, you're the one that introduced that to them. Like they're accomplishing not only physical hurdles, but huge mental ones as well. I mean, I have friends and family that they're like, "You're crazy. I can't believe you do the scuba diving. And you can kill yourself scuba diving if you don't follow the rules. I mean, it's a dangerous sport. It can be dangerous if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But as long as you stay within, what you taught, never hold your breath. You don't go past, decompression. You don't go past anything on recreational depth limits, or if you're diving nitrox with max operating depth, chances are you're not going to have a problem. You're gonna live a long, fulfilling life, experiencing amazing things underwater. And I just started getting into freediving, and I told myself years ago, I'm never touching that. No way. That's super dangerous. And I'm freaking hooked now. Like I am, I needed this. I love scuba diving. It's the most incredible thing ever. But the mental hurdle that I have now accomplished inside my own head with freediving, I can't tell you, Benjamin, how much that has changed me just in the short time I started. And I just started, and one of our instructors, Joe, he's been hounding me for 2 years now. So, we should do freediving. We should do freediving. We should do freediving. And I was like, no, we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it. And they had the world championship here in Roatan this last August. And I got to, meet like Alexei Molchanov and Mariana Giuseppe, that, top tier freediving in the world. So I started kind of picking their brain on it. Johnny, one of the U.S. team competitors, he stayed at my house because he had reached out to us about doing freediving as well as scuba for therapy, and it started piquing my interest. So now I'm kind of trying it, and it looks like that's something that we're going to bring into our mission as well for the veterans that want to push themselves a little bit harder physically, because it's a workout. It is definitely a workout, but it provides the same mental, like you get forced into the present moment. There's no, I don't know if you experience that, or if you're cognizant of when you experience it. You do technical stuff, which scares me. Like the depth on technical, it creeps me out. But a good friend of mine, Andy, who actually taught my ITC, Andy Egan, he's a big tech guy, and he keeps trying to tell me, he's like, look, man, once you get past that, it's no different, than like probably the mental block I had on freediving. You have to push yourself at some point to really see what you can do. So I think that's probably what the adaptive and regular, scuba community goes through as the biggest kind of hurdle they have to push themselves to do scuba.
I would agree with that. You got to come over to the technical with us. Next time we come down, we'll do a little talking about that and see if we can't move you into the go realm.
Will, right? Will Fox.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was one of my, so Will Fox and Kirk Stolzenberg were my instructors for my trainer. And Will did talk me into the decompression diving. So I have that course material in my account. At some point I got to get down to Key Largo and do that with him. So he did twist my arm to start dipping my toes into it, but
there you go.
I don't know. We'll see. I think that's going to be a long process. I struggle with the math so bad, and there's a lot of math in that.
The math is really actually pretty easy. It really is. It's the key with, I'll tell you that the two keys with technical diving is, first, the mental strength to do it.
Yeah.
because you have to have mental patience and mental strength to want to want to do that. And the second one is the configuration of getting into that good hover and that good trim, so
Yeah.
you can stop and do nothing, and you're okay doing 45 minutes on a deco stop, just watching fish go by.
Yeah.
And and it really is about it. It develops your technique. I watch my open water divers that eventually move into tech. Their form changes completely from the time
I bet.
they start to the time I get them into tech. And I like to get my assistant instructors into tech quickly, because it changes their form and they become amazing looking open water instructors. That's for sure. It's fantastic. So that's
Yeah.
my pitch on it for you for the day. But let's jump back into this. So with classified diving, what are some of the key skills that you teach that you've learned through the process? Give me one or two good skills as I'm teaching classified diving. How do I need to teach it? What's a key skill that you were like, yeah, I've got to teach that?
So I took a deaf blind non-military. He found us on Google or something. He came in on a cruise ship, and he said, I'm deaf blind. He had a scuba diver cert from Patty. I don't know how he had that, but he did have it. And he said, will you take me for a dive? This is before I did any kind of classified training, right? I'm like, you know what? I'll take anybody diving. Like let's do it, right? And we just did a little shore dive. I think max depth is like 20 feet. I don't know if you've been to Roatan, but the Mandy's Eel Garden, you've got like basically a 20-foot swim out to the wall, and 20 feet deep. That is, it's about a 200 or 300-yard swim. But he had an interpreter or a sign language interpreter, and he did tactile sign language. So, I mean, my mind was blown just watching this, right? And in my core, I just want to help people. So this was like my first introduction to the adaptive side, deaf and blind.
Yeah.
And, I jump into things, willy nilly, but his interpreter couldn't equalize. So she couldn't get down. And I'm sitting there, just kind of my hand on his shoulder, looking at him, looking up at her and going, what's going on? Like, I don't know sign language. And, he's just sitting there waiting patiently. Okay. So I, do the okay sign and stick my hand in his hand. And he says, okay, all right, maybe try this. Like, you want to swim? And he says, okay. So we start swimming. Right. And we just kind of do circles, and she stayed above us and watched. And I had one of the dive shop managers. He's also an instructor, Claudio, with us. And so it was basically like a 2-on-1 there. And we just kind of swam in circles, and we found like a conch shell that he could feel. There's kind of like a what do you call it? Like a guideline rope that goes all the way out for people to follow. And he got to feel that. Found some kind of empty seashells, had him feel that, and came back, and he said it at the time of his life. So as far as classified skills go, understanding what it's like to be blind was like, after taking somebody with no comprehension of what he was feeling, the blind diver portion of the classified is huge. I mean, when you do the total blackout mask and you're underwater breathing, like it's such a weird sensation in your body. And then you do the clear skirt for like a partial blind, where you get some kind of light coming in and out, but the mask is still blacked out. For me, that was probably one of my favorite learning experiences, was because I kind of had prior knowledge of taking somebody, but had no idea what they might be feeling. So when you're doing that, or when you're doing like when you're guiding somebody who might be paralyzed, you need to know how to manipulate them in a way that you're not just clobbering them, but everything is in nice and slow and controlled movements, right? And again, you're going to get people that might not like you being too handsy, where if they can use their arms to swim, you use the web gloves, so you know what that's like and how exhausting that can be. Just from going from like kicking or frog kicking to trying to propel yourself because you're paralyzed from the waist down by doing a breaststroke. it's exhausting. So you have to keep in mind that you can't, you can't just start kicking like you normally would. Like, you really have to slow yourself down. And I think that's one of the best things that you learn, especially as an instructor, when you go through the classified courses, is how slow you need to go. You're not just, everybody gets into that kind of complacency, right? Like, open water, 1, 2, 3, 4, confined water and all this stuff. And you just kind of go like a template. But classified kind of throws a kink into that, and it allows you to start really kind of thinking about how divers might react in a different way.
How do you think that's changed your general open water skill, teaching ability and teaching methods?
If you ask my wife, she says I'm the most patient individual while I'm teaching. Outside of that, not so much. No, this has changed my life. I mean, I have no problems admitting, I had issues. Like I said, I was a raging alcoholic, which controlled my life, and I made a lot of bad decisions, and that was heavily anchored with my PTSD. And it's therapy for me when I get to help my brothers and sisters that saw combat and get to teach them a skill set that they never thought of before. Because I don't know, scuba has a bad name depending on who you talk to, right? Somebody might have lost a relative, and I feel terrible for the families that, of people who have had scuba accidents. But they're avoidable, and that scares a lot of people. And you get over that mental hurdle and you see them progress. It's changed my life significantly. I went from being a selfish jerk, that only cared about myself, to wanting nothing but to show the underwater world to as many people as I possibly can, especially veterans, because I've seen firsthand what it does, not only to myself, but we've had over 150 veterans come through our program in the past 4 years, that it's changed their lives too. Some like it, but they don't really progress in it. It's kind of like well, that's cool, I have that, if I ever go on vacation, I'll use it. And then when you have the other guys that just freaking run straight into it, like, oh, this is my new favorite thing. And one of the guys that came through our course in was it June or July? He just sent me an email saying that his entire life has changed. He's gotten off all of his medication from the VA, and he's actually going on a liveaboard trip in like 2 weeks. And I was like, that's incredible, man. Like, you're going on like that's a dedicated diver trip. Regular divers don't do liveaboard trips. I mean, no. A, the price, but B, it's an a la carte, all you can dive. Like, you're going to meet some serious divers, man. Pay attention, have conversations with them, like, really pick their brain. You're going to love every minute of this. And he told me, he's like, that's what I want. Like, you've changed my life. I want to get my dive master. I want to work to instructor, and I want to help this mission with veterans as well. Like, I've tried everything, and I've never been able to get out of my rut. I've never been able to get off my meds. I've never been able to just feel like I'm not suffocating all the time. And scuba has allowed that in my life. And I've heard this dozens of times, people that are on their last leg of just every day, they're just trying to find something to keep them alive, right? Something. And they come through our program, and it completely changes their life. And it's 1 week of scuba, I mean, we got to go. It's go, go, go. I mean, we're 14 dives. I mean, it's as long as we can be underwater, we will. They get the best sleep of their lives here because they're just so exhausted from breathing the compressed gas. I know what that's like. A week of diving, even on nitrox, you're smoked. you are just, I mean, you're sleeping better than ever. But that was one of the most recent kind of, I don't know, just that makes me feel so happy. I helping others to get out of that rut, because I know what that rut feels like. And I know how difficult it is. And everybody's different. Everybody has their limits. Everybody has what works for them. I'm not saying that, scuba is the end all be all fix all, but it's something that's so different that it has this side effect of being able to, to snap people out of that rut long enough to start thinking clearly. And it's, I don't know, in his case, that is a drastic change, right? I would love to get every veteran off the medication that, I've got to stay away from the political side of this, but the VA sucks. Like, I don't think I could say that enough. And we're going to be talking to Congress and Senate relatively soon to try and get some changes made on the VA side, because I'm sick of it. And, they put us in their newsletter 3 years ago, and we had 2,500 veterans apply in 12 hours.
Wow.
Which is why we had to create the Purple Heart rule. Before that, it was any veteran could come, and we still have over 400 veterans on a wait list. And the VA hasn't given us a dime, not even a penny. And we got Congress involved last year for the adaptive sports grant, and they said, "Oh, well, it's because you're bringing veterans outside the United States." Okay, so we changed. Now we're operating out of Florida. We're operating out of Gilboa Quarry up in Ohio. We're operating pretty much anywhere we can in the U.S., and we got denied again this year. And I'm waiting for the reason why. And once we get the reason why, I'm probably going to be going nuclear about it to get some changes made, because it's angering. But in my personal experience with the VA, this is not, a political statement. It's the second you get in there, oh, here's medication. Take these. Like, okay. Like, do I get to talk to somebody first? No, just take these. I've had friends that had to wait over a year to talk to a therapist, and they were like this close from killing themselves. And they had to wait a year just to see a therapist in the VA. And then once you see it, then they rotate the therapists, and then you get a new one. So you have to start over. So you finally build a rapport with a therapist you might like and feel comfortable with. And then the VA says, okay, now you're going to see this one. You get to start all over again. So I get the wonderful experience of trying to do all that from Honduras. And that just adds a whole nother layer of catastrophe to it. So the most recent issue with us with the VA is we got denied the adaptive sports grant again, which there's no reason why we shouldn't. They do provide much smaller organizations with grants for scuba diving, and that don't have a 400 veteran wait list that they created, and they're giving that money out. So I don't know what the reasoning is, but I'm after 4 years of denials, or 3 years of denials since the article, our board has finally said, okay, enough. We have to fight. So hopefully we're going to get some changes made inside that. But if you talk to any of your veteran friends, I'm not sure what your situation is with the VA, but 9 times out of 10, it's here, take these meds. And if we can start getting these people off the meds so they can think clearly for once, that's a huge win in my book. And obviously you have to do it the right way. You can't just rip people off medication, because side effects are through the roof. But the people that do it the right way see huge changes in their lives so fast.
Nick, what can we do to support Warfighter Scuba to continue its mission?
You can donate on our website. We're a 501c3. We are a U.S. nonprofit, so it is tax deductible. warfighterscuba.org/donate. You can go there. You can donate there. We have a fundraiser coming up in Dripping Springs, Texas, at Hog Heaven on Veterans Day, November. I always say November 10th, but it's November 11th. I get the Marine Corps birthday, and everything confused. So it's Saturday, November 11th. It's running from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're going to be doing some sporting clay shoots. We have some Navy SEALs doing some pistol training that you come out and learn some pistol training. All proceeds go to the mission from that. And then we have some really cool silent auction items. So if you're in the Texas area or you want to fly out for that, that's an option, as well, as far as like, directly contributing this year. Next year, we're planning on a huge year. My goal is to get 100 veterans through next year. And I think we did about 54 this year. I want to try and double that next year.
That's amazing. So, Nick, we all have that student that is our prize student. We made the biggest impact in their life. One of mine, I was teaching.
Oh, okay, in a positive way. Okay, sorry, I thought you were going the other way.
In a positive way. Mine was I was teaching ice diving this last season, which I know this is completely foreign to you, but I had a student, as soon as he got his gear off, he jumped up, ran over, and hugged me, and said, "This is the greatest experience of my life." And so, that one always stands out as well. But tell me about your most heartwarming experience that just you can't get out of your head. You're like, "Wow, I touched this person positively."
It was probably my first amputee that came through our program. His name's Jay, and he's become a very, very close friend of mine. I love him to death. I when you're teaching, you're very good at reading people, right? And the whole mental, like, I'm scared of the water, I'm scared of this. He thought he was controlling that very well. I mean, his eyes were this big. I mean, and so we're in the pool and we're going through, and I can tell, okay, this guy's he's a little worried about the water. Did great on all the skills. Did, absolutely phenomenal. Get out to open water, crushed his skills again. And we start getting into just, really fine tuning buoyancy, fine tuning his kick. He's a right leg amputee at the hip. So he has no ability for a prosthetic for swimming. So we started out with the web gloves. He hated those. And I taught him the mermaid kick. And when he got that down, I saw his light just shine, like the light bulb went off, and I need a leash for him. Every time we dive together, I need a freaking leash for him, because he is such a madman, and he's free, and he's just like, he won't slow down. He's so excited to be mobile, because when he walks, he has to carry a backpack with batteries, that like ridiculous amounts of batteries to replace the power knee. Right. And that was just like I knew what we did helped, but that was the most, just sitting back and going, huh. Like I'm speechless still to this day. And then he came back again with another group of veterans, and we did the perfect buoyancy, right? We had the little square up, and that son of a gun, he did better than me, and I'm the instructor. And he's got one leg, and he's doing everything perfect, and flips and loops, and it's just that one will always, I think, be the best of like, wow moments. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've had quite a few, same thing, like, oh my God, you've changed my life, and hug me. But I think that the first one is the one that always sticks the most. We stay in touch with all of our veterans. Like we have a Facebook group that's closed to people who only come through our program. Admittedly, I need to get better at getting everybody in there. I'm so bad at social media. But we're trying to grow a network and make this a continuous thing. And that's going to be one of the big things next year, is now that we're starting off in Florida or in Gilboa. There's a dive park in Dallas that we might start using, but to come back to Roatan and have, do some more advanced stuff, because trying to squeeze everything in here in a week. Yeah. It's great for training, but I think it's better for the veterans to get a more realistic experience. You know what I mean? Where they're starting off not top 5 dive destinations in the world. You go to, Florida's still great. I went to Pompano and diving the wrecks there was a heck of a lot easier than doing the wrecks here, because all the wrecks here are, 100, 110 feet. So it's a much more advanced dive. We get to play on one of them. I think it's the Lady Luck or something. We played on that for like almost 40 minutes and, didn't even come close to Deco or anything. It was just incredible. You go down to El Aguila or Odyssey, 10, 12 minutes. It's like, okay, we got to go. And it's, I don't know. It's going to be cool to start bringing like a reunion trip, right? So we're going to try and do large groups, like 10 to 12 veterans. And then Joe and Adam and myself will be in the water with them to keep the 4-to-1. But we can all do, the veterans will get to meet other veterans. And, I love it when I get to see Joe and Adam. They're great. They joined us 2 years ago as instructors, and it's just we're a cool little family, and I'm hoping you get to come out and dive with us, and become a part of that as well. It's I don't know. It's for the first time in my life, I've created something that works. That's all I can say. I mean, I've screwed up so many things in my life, and this is just something that works and is growing, and we're creating like a movement inside the veteran community that's just amazing. It's just wonderful. So yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling again. I just I'm so excited. I have so much excitement about it.
That's awesome. So let's dig back into the course just a little bit and then kind of close out. But Nick, dive scenarios and problem solving exercises are often part of how the open water course works. How can you, with new adaptive students, prepare them to handle these situations effectively?
Yeah, I mean, Q&A beforehand, expectations. I always talk to the students and the veterans, like, what do you expect? It's a good way to read what they might be having issues with. Especially on the adaptive side, every adaptive individual is going to have different needs or different circumstances that you need to be aware of. So definitely having like, a good knowledge of your students or veterans beforehand and what their expectations are. Communication's key. If you're not communicating, somebody's probably going to get hurt. Just trying to force something through. The boat diving on the adaptive side, we don't have anything with like what do you call it, a davit or like a crane. So we got to use the slings. And sometimes, all the boats at Infinity are platform boats. So it's giant stride entries, and ladder exits where, sometimes the platform's pretty high. I try to get the lower one, if we have anybody that we need to sling in, obviously, because it makes it a lot easier. But also, transfers from wheelchairs onto the boat kind of thing. So that's typically where I'm really worried. Once we get in the water, not so much. I mean, especially if they're telling me what they're comfortable with. But communication beforehand is probably the most important part.
Fantastic. So we all, as instructors, we all have our favorite little games we play during open water to teach skills. I have my students, for example, build cairns underwater. I've had them find rocks and stack them to help them teach buoyancy. Or we'll play games where I'll take an egg down that's been boiled and it's not been boiled at the surface, right? And sorry, I actually.
Okay.
we play our own little games as we go along. What individual unique games have you learned to play with your adaptive divers that are kind of fun but teach a lesson at the same time?
I don't think we really play any games, to be honest with you. It's just working on buoyancy is big, but it's mainly I kind of do like a follow the leader type. I show them, and then we sit there and we practice it. When we get into if we bust out the perfect buoyancy and, I set up a course like that, that's kind of when the fun starts, right? I mean, okay. That's why I started laughing when you said, everybody's got that one student. I used to be able to teach, the free flowing regulator as this is something you'll probably never see in your life, but this is how you can overcome it. Right. Well, I can't say that anymore because I had a Marine that now is part of my course every time I teach the free flowing regulator, because I set up like the tank banger, the lobster tickler. So I'll run a line, and at the end of it, it'll just kind of be sitting out of the sand like this, right? And I want them to purge their regulator without using their hands, gently. This guy in true Marine form, I mean, I swear he was like sprinting straight vertically down to hit it as hard as he could. It actually was enough force that pushed the valve, the little leaf spring, all the way back, so it started a free flow. And I'm holding it, just like shaking my head, like holding my regulator out for him to take it. I'm laughing so hard. He's laughing. He's forgetting to take my regulator. I'm like shaking it in his face. It's just so, yeah. We play games like that mainly on the buoyancy course.
Sure.
But a lot of times, we've got so much stuff, it's hard to haul it down when we're down on that shore dive. I don't know if you've ever been to Infinity, but it's like a 300-yard walk with gear and everything. So, I would love to have like torpedoes and things like that. It's just, it's always a nightmare trying to get the gear down there. And I'm one of those people that likes to have everything set correctly, so there's no distractions. But I guess the game part, when you're doing the classified dive buddy, when you're learning the blind diver stuff, that's usually pretty funny. When you're completely dependent on somebody else, and it just you look so stiff, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and trying to get them relaxed on that part. But yeah, I maybe I should start implementing that. I never thought of doing games. We don't have any rocks we can stack without, probably.
Well, Nick, finally, what advice would you give anyone interested in pursuing a similar path in diving as an adaptive instructor?
Go for it. I mean, it's different, and you'll end up taking different things away from it that might help you teach regular open water or advanced or different specialties, because you're presented with different circumstances that you have to adapt to. I mean, it's a great way to increase your ability to teach. When you get out of that cookie cutter, everything's typically the same kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of games. I'm gonna have to figure that out, because we don't do anything like that, and that would probably help significantly. I mean,
it's definitely fun to break it up with a little humor. I have a few favorites. One of them is I have two sizes of Snickers candy bars, a mini and a full size. And at the surface, I show them a full size Snickers candy bar, and then I put it in my pocket. I says, "What will it look like when we get to depth?" And then I pull out of my pocket the mini one. I says, "Look how small it is." And then when I get back to the surface, I show them the big one again. I'll take it 2 eggs. I'll take one that's hard boiled and one that's fresh. And at the surface, I'll crack it and say, "Okay, so I've got 2 eggs here. This one's and it's regular. What happens to a regular egg if we take it to the surf or to the depth and get pressure on it with Boyle's law? Will it boil? Will it get hot?" And so I take it down, I crack it, and it's a hard boiled egg, And so we have little things like that. Just
so you're messing with them. I get it.
We have a little bit of fun with it and get them to thinking. And the goal is to get them thinking. But I also like the idea of making them stack cairns. And make things
stacking what?
Stacking rocks. They call it building cairns. But you take
building cairns.
Okay. I learned it. I went to Blue Grotto, and I was doing an instructor course there. And as part of the instructor course, we stacked rocks one on top of the other. But the object is you can only touch it with one hand. You can't touch anything else, and you have to remain in buoyancy. So you have to pick up a rock, set it on top of another rock, and then come back, and then you have to pick up another rock and see how high you can build them.
Huh. So I wonder. Yeah, I would have to do. Well,
it's fun.
All we have is reefs, so yeah, I'd have to make something artificial there for sure. But I want to do that because I've seen people with the torpedoes and things like that, that work to help with buoyancy, and I would love to implement something like that to make it a little bit less. Hey, watch me now. You do it.
Absolutely. Try and find fun things to break up the course, right? And mess with them a little bit through the course, but get them thinking. What would happen to this? Yeah. And at the end, we tell them, it was a hard boiled egg we got down, but they get to thinking, what would happen to an egg if I took it down? Well, that's certainly frustrating. Anyway,
There you are.
sorry about that. Well, Nick, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Nick, thank you so much for coming on and working with and talking with us today. I appreciate you greatly.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I hope we can dive soon.
I'm definitely looking forward to it and trying to get back to Honduras. I've dove all the places you've talked about, and I've loved them all. The Lady Luck is one of our favorite dives, and as well, and we've done plenty of time on the Luck as well. So, hope to see you soon.
Awesome.
Well, guys, if you can, go to Warfighter Scuba. Check out their website, donate if you can. It's a great cause. We're helping veterans that have gone through a process. They've been wounded in action somehow. And to get a Purple Heart, it's not an award. In the Corps, we always jokingly called it the enemy marksmanship badge. It means that something bad happened to them because they were in combat for us. They've lost a limb, an arm, something. They've taken damage personally for us. Right. Nick, thank you for your service as well, by the way. And I just want to take the time, go to their Facebook page, support them in any way you can. Again, if you like this kind of content, go to Teach Me to Dive. Make sure you smash that like button and the subscribe button, because we want you to come in and see amazing guys like Nick. Now, Nick, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to do a follow-up with you in a few months as well and see where you're at and see what more we can do and if we helped you in some way.
Yeah, of course. Anytime you want me on, I'm happy to be here.
Nick, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Benjamin.